Boomer! The Oklahoma Sooners pulled off the upset.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to post-game live edition of Locked On Sooners after the Oklahoma Sooners upset the Alabama Crimson Tide in dominating fashion, 24-3. This episode is brought to you by Sorry, too many buttons, too excited. I completely knocked myself out of the screen. I'm so excited. Sorry about that, everybody. We're here. We're live. It's Locked On Sooners. Sometimes the live stuff, you mess something up, but you keep going. Just like Oklahoma overcame the Taylor Tatum fumble in the first quarter, overcame the Bauer Sharp drop in the end zone, overcame the Zach Schmidt field goal. This is what Oklahoma Sooners football under Brent Venables is all about. Staying resilient, staying tough, playing 4 quarters of football, and absolutely put together an incredible game plan from start to finish and dominated this team. Listen, this was unexpected. I know there are people sitting here saying never a doubt. I'm sure that there were Sooner fans picking Oklahoma in this game, but if you had to be honest with yourself, it was hard to imagine Oklahoma winning this game. A lot of things had to go right for the Sooners, and it did. They took care of the football. They came in with a really, really nice game plan. The thing that we've been calling for on this show all week long, to run the ball, 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 and they just continued to run the ball. Absolutely wonderful game plan by the coaching staff, the offensive staff that had this design, like, hey, we are going to run the football and we're going to continue to run the football. Jackson Arnold carried the ball 25 times in this game. And I cannot wait to see the Pro Football Focus numbers because I don't remember him going backwards much. Xavier Robinson himself had 18 carries in this game. Both guys ran for over 100 yards. And it was a dominant first half. Oklahoma ran for over 200 yards in the first half, held Alabama to under 100 yards in the first half, and under 250 yards for the game. Just, again, an incredible win. You know, I expected Oklahoma to cover. The line kind of finished at 13.5 points. And I thought, hey, Oklahoma can keep this close. They can play a tough defensive game. Their defense is really good. I don't think Alabama can necessarily run away from them as long as they don't allow Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard to get loose and get free for some big gains. They did in the first half. On Alabama's only scoring drive, Ryan Williams had a big play of more than 30 yards, and Jeremy Bernard had a big play of more than 30 yards. And then the Oklahoma Sooners defense shut it down. They were able to force the field goal, hold them to 3, got down 3-0, and then Oklahoma scored the next 24 points straight. The way that they played, they finished the first half of the game just constantly running the ball, killing clock, eating it up. That drive just before halftime was a thing of beauty. Oklahoma goes on a 12-play, 67-yard drive that covered 5:14 of game time. That ended up with an Xavier Robinson 18-yard touchdown run. Just chef's kiss. Absolutely perfect drive when you have a defensive football team to just continue to churn yards, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and gaining ground every single play. And to cap it off with the touchdown, it just gave you all of the momentum going into the second half. And even as Alabama, they were trying to mount something there just before halftime, and the defense just absolutely shut it down, just like they did all night long. Every single time the Alabama offense tried to get something going and even got into Oklahoma territory, Danny Stutzman, R. Mason Thomas, all those dudes on defense, Ethan Downs, all those dudes on defense stepped up and made the plays and got off the field. And I thought to myself, hey, I'm thinking in the third quarter, I'm thinking, okay, it might take one more score for Oklahoma to really pull this thing off. And the offense kind of wasn't able to get a whole lot going in that third quarter, but it didn't matter because the defense played an incredible football game from start to finish, never let up, made Jalen Milroe's life a living hell. It was an incredible game plan by Brent Venables. And let's give Zach Alley some flowers. I know everybody's going to talk about Brent Venables. He's not the one calling the defense. He's helping design. He's helping create the game plan. He's helping, help Zach Alley figure out how to defend Jalen Milroe. But Zach Alley's the one calling it. And he had an incredible game. This was a Zach Alley statement game right here. If there have been any questions about what he's capable of as a defensive coordinator, Zach Alley absolutely stepped up and showed exactly what he's capable of. There's only one moment in this game where you're like, I don't know about that play call. And it was like a 3rd and 11, and they rushed 3 and they give up a big gain. But other than that, I love the way he stayed aggressive in the fourth quarter with a 3-touchdown lead, continuing to throw blitzes at Jalen Milroe, continuing to try to confuse him and rushing different guys. It was just, again, a really, really good game plan. It was really good coverage all night. Ryan Williams, he had a couple big plays. Like, dude, it was Ryan Williams is going to be a problem for the next 2 years. Thankfully for only 2 years, because he'll be in the NFL after that. But he was a problem. And Oklahoma did a really, really good job limiting his impact in this game. Had a couple impactful plays, but he didn't kill you. And that was going to be one of the keys to this game, right? Is that you got to contain Ryan Williams. You cannot let him get and create big plays in the passing game. So Oklahoma dominates the first half. The yardage is completely skewed in Oklahoma's favor. Let's just we can look at it right real quick. In the first half, Oklahoma had 242 total yards. Alabama had 97. Oklahoma had 205 rushing yards. Alabama had 35. 13 first downs for Oklahoma, just 4 for Alabama. Oklahoma was 5 of 9 on third down in the first half. Alabama, 2 of 6. Time of possession in the first half, 17:42 to 12:18 in favor of the Sooners. For the game, Oklahoma just 34-11 to 25-49. It felt like it was much more skewed heavily in Oklahoma's favor, right? You felt like the Sooners had that maybe like 45-15 by the way that this game was going. But what was impressive and just absolutely impressive, and somebody mentioned give Joe John Finley his flowers, man. You got to give it to Joe John Finley. I know it's probably so tempting at times when you get yourself into some of those second mediums and longs, third and mediums and longs, or third and shorts even. It's so tempting to want to dial up a pass play. But he stayed true to the game plan. He didn't deviate. He just continued to run the rock. And it was incredibly effective. It was incredibly effective. And so shout out to Joe John Finley, man. It takes a lot of discipline to stay with your game plan and not deviate from what you've prepared all week. When you're in the game and you find yourself in a situation like, hey, let me dial up a pass play. But this is what they've needed to do all year when they've been down the wide receivers that they've been down. Just lean into the run game and lean into what has developed into a really good offensive line. And you found some players in an Xavier Robinson. And, Jackson Arnold. Dude had an incredible game. And we're going to talk all about what Jackson Arnold did. We're going to talk about what Xavier Robinson did. We'll talk about the second half a little bit more. And Oklahoma's going bowling. 6-5 on the season now, with one game remaining, going on that trip to Death Valley, take on the LSU Tigers. Dominic's asking the question, can we win in Death Valley? That is going to be the question on everybody's mind all week. After a performance like this, and also understanding that LSU struggles to stop the quarterback run, I'm not going to say they can't. I don't know. But I'm just going to enjoy this win right now. And I'm going to enjoy the fact that Oklahoma pulled off an upset win over the top 10 team, the number 7 Alabama Crimson Tide, in a game again, which they were 2 touchdown underdogs against Alabama at home, at night, in the season that they've had. When you've been down your top 5 wide receivers, you're missing Jake Taylor and Jacob Sexton, the guys that were projected to start along the offensive line for you. Nothing was going to be going Oklahoma's way in this game. But they came out and they were the tougher team, the more physical team. They were the more resilient team, and they executed at a very, very high level in this game. And that is a credit to the players, the leadership on the team, the guys like Danny Stutzman and Ethan Downs and Billy Bowman and Woody Washington and Michael Tarkin. And listen, Jackson Arnold, the leadership from him, Troy Everett. You know, this group of guys that, and especially on the offensive side of the ball, this group of guys that have been so maligned all year, arguably the worst offense that Oklahoma's had since 1998. And they came through with a performance that we'll talk about for years to come. We'll mention this 2024 season, that first year in the SEC, and we'll remember it. It's one of those terrible seasons, but I've said it multiple times that this is the aberration year. Oklahoma isn't this. Oklahoma isn't what we've seen the previous 10 games of this season. They're not the up and down, inconsistent team. They're the team that can go out and win a game like this. When you don't turn the ball over, yes, they had the Taylor Tatum fumble, but it was in Alabama territory, so it didn't kill you like turnovers have this season, where you're turning it over and you're into the field and giving the other team a short field to work with that's putting your defense on their heels to begin the drive. No, you won the field position battle. You won the turnover battle. You won the total yardage battle. You won the first down battle. You did everything right in this game. Executed at an incredibly high level in this game. And that's what ultimately led to the win. So we're going to try and dive in. We'll talk offense. We'll talk defense, talk some about the special teams. The coaching was just phenomenal. I thought the coaching staff came together with a really, really good game plan. Could not be happier for Brent Venables, given everything that he's been going on, had going on with his wife, Julie. Shout out to Julie. Prayers are still going up for you. Thinking about you and the family. But everything that's been going on this year, everything. It would have been really, really easy for this team to quit, especially after what happened in Columbia against Missouri. I don't know if I've ever felt more deflated as a football fan, but especially as an Oklahoma fan. I've never felt more deflated than I was after the Missouri game. And it would have been really easy for everybody to just quit. But nobody did. The fans didn't quit. Shout out to the fans. Like, from the broadcast view, the fans turned it up tonight. They were incredible. The team was incredible. The team almost took their intensity, their focus to another level. When again, it would have been really easy to quit. But that just goes to show you the coaching staff that you have, the leadership that you have on this team, and their ability to just continue to silence critics, silence doubters, or at least rise to the occasion. This was a moment. This was a moment in the tenure of Brent Venables that I think we'll look back to and think that was it. That was when everything that he'd been building toward, everything that he'd, tried to establish with this team, where it really came together. And the offense can go to another level still. Right? Jackson Arnold only threw the ball what? How many times did he only throw the ball? He threw the ball just 11 times. An efficient 9 of 11. But this was a moment that I think we'll look back to and say that's when it came together. From a cultural standpoint, that is the moment where everything came together. Everything settled in. We've had night games before, right? We've had big games, big opportunities for Oklahoma to really establish itself under the Brent Venables era. But this is one of those things, we didn't see it in 2023 when Oklahoma had opportunities to continue to contend and build toward a Big 12 title run. They weren't able to do it. Fell flat against Oklahoma State, fell flat against UCF, couldn't overcome some of the injuries last year. And they're more injured this year, and they were able to come out with a win like this. So shout out to the coaching staff, Brent Venables, first of all, given everything that's been going on in your personal life this year. And I know everybody says, well, he's got a job to do. How hard is it to focus on your job when someone that you love and care about is sick? I know even just if my wife has a cold or something and she's home with the kids and I'm at work, I'm thinking about my wife. It's hard to stay focused sometimes. And with what his wife's going through and his ability to stay focused and continue to lead this team, dude, shout out to him. Joe John Finley, again, coming up with the game plan that we've been calling for on this show. Just the run heavy focus. And they were 100% run heavy in this game. They ran the ball 50 times to just 12 pass attempts. Perfection. That is what you needed to do. You don't have the wide receiver crew. Again, shout out to Brennan Thompson and JJ Hester for all the work that they've put in this year, but the passing game has just not been an efficient part of this offense at all this year. But what you'd found over the last month is that you can run the ball pretty effectively and at least pretty efficiently. And Joe John Finley leaned heavily into that tonight. And it wasn't pretty. It's not one of those games that is going to have a ton of highlights that you're looking at huge plays like Marquise Brown going for 70 yards or, Joe Mixon against Texas Tech where he's, racking up these incredible yardage numbers. It wasn't any of that, but this was a tough offense, a game like this. You need your offense to be tough, and it absolutely was tough. You need your offense to play a defensive game, so to speak, to play in a way that you're going to run as much clock as you possibly can. You're going to eat up as much clock as you can. You're going to churn out yards. You're going to get the dirty yards. And Jackson Arnold and Xavier Robinson did that all night long. When you run the ball for 50 times and you gain time of possession and you don't really give Alabama's offense an opportunity to come back, it just says a lot about what the offensive line did. Shout out to Coach Bill Bedenbaugh for getting the offensive line ready to play against an Alabama front and a pretty good Alabama defense. Is it the best Alabama defense we've ever seen? No, but it's still really good Alabama defense. Remember, they shut out Missouri just a few weeks ago and made that look incredibly bad. They held LSU in check. So this was a good Alabama defense, and the offensive line turned it up. Saw a lot of Eddie Pierre-Louis, but Logan Howland, Heath Ozida, Troy Everett, Eddie Pierre-Louis, Fabechi Wiwu, Spencer Brown, all those dudes, they took their game to another level. It's like they took the challenge and say, hey, this is Alabama. We got the challenge. We're gonna dominate this thing. And they did. They absolutely dominated Alabama's defensive front. And Joe John Finley had a great game plan to mix it up to where they used some counters, to where they used Jackson Arnold running wide. They used some wide zone concepts. They used a lot of the quarterback power, the quarterback draw game. They ran a lot of the read option game, and Jackson Arnold made some really good decisions with it. And then Xavier Robinson, man. Xavier Robinson was tough. He was physical, constantly falling forward. I mean, to me, he starts the LSU game, and I'm content if he is my lead running back going into 2020 and 2025, I'm 100% happy with that. He's shown you his ability to run the ball. He's shown you his ability to catch the ball. The catch he had like down in Alabama's red zone where he kind of bobbled it a little bit, but then was able to maintain that focus and corral it and get some positive yardage on that first down. This was after the Eli Bowen interception. That falls incomplete, and you're looking at 2nd and 10. He catches it. It turns into 2nd and 5. And that's a much more manageable down and distance for the game that you're trying to play. So that was a huge, huge moment in the game offensively for Oklahoma. And then just a few plays later, he cashes it in with his second touchdown of the night, second rushing touchdown of the night. Just a fantastic game. Had his first 100-yard rushing effort in this one. So just incredibly proud of him. And it's awesome because he's one of those guys that flew under the radar because he's an Oklahoma kid and didn't get the star status that he probably deserved after an incredible career at Carl Albert, but has come into Oklahoma and proven that stars don't mean everything. No disrespect to the guys in the recruiting industry, but this was a dude that was under evaluated and under recruited. And Oklahoma's found a gem. And yeah, he's your number one running back. But Jackson Arnold, man, Jackson Arnold played like a beast as well. Let's talk defense now. Defensively, this was the best Oklahoma defensive performance of the Brent Venables era, easily. But I'd have to go back a long time to find a defensive performance better than this one. From start to finish, Jalen Milroe, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, had no chance. He made a few plays in the passing game, had, I think, one maybe good run, but the Sooners defense absolutely made his life miserable. 11 of 26 for 164 yards passing. That's 42% completion percentage. 3 interceptions on the night. And then they held him to 7 yards on 15 carries. 3 sacks. So some of that's going to be sack yardage. But again, perfection. Shout out to Brent Venables and Zach Alley and the defensive staff. They came up with a great game plan. They did a great job containing Jalen Milroe. Those guys on the defensive line, especially your defensive ends, Ethan Downs, R. Mason Thomas, Trace Ford, Caden Woolard. I'm sure I'm going to forget somebody. I can't wait to see the snap counts. But they did a great job keeping Jalen Milroe funneled in the pocket. And your defensive tackles did a great job not giving Jalen Milroe a lot of room to step up in the pocket. Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson, Grayson Halton, David Stone, Dejon Terry, all those guys, that whole defensive line played a fantastic game, especially as the game continued to wear on and Alabama got into situations where you have to throw it now. You're down 24-3. The pass rush came to life. Oklahoma kept that momentum that they'd built in the first half defensively into the second half. Eli Bowen, my goodness, man. Eli Bowen had arguably the toughest matchup of the night, having to play a lot against Ryan Williams, and dude came up big. And he was one of those guys like Xavier Robinson that got knocked on the recruiting trail because of his height. Dude plays much bigger than his height. He plays above his weight class. The way he read the screen, worked around the block, and got into position to make a play on the football, first of all, just to get into position to make a play on the football was amazing. And then to intercept it after it hits him, and then he bobbles it, and then he's able to pick it off and then take it into the 14-yard line. Amazing. Just an incredible play. That dude was due for a big play like that. He's played so solid all year long. And he comes up with a huge play. Arguably the biggest play of the game, because Alabama had just gotten a first down. I think it was 2nd and 11. And I'm going to look real quick to make sure I don't say it wrong, but no, it's 1st and 10. It was 1st and 10. Alabama just picked up a first down on their first drive of the second half, which, hey, they hadn't done a whole lot in the first half, right? So getting a first down, that's a big moment in the game for them, for that offense. You got to get a first down before you can get a touchdown. And then on that first down play, they're dialing something up for Ryan Williams. They're trying to get their biggest playmaker on the outside, the ball in space, and see if he can create a big play. And Bowen reads it like a book, gets behind the blocker, makes the interception, gets it down into the scoring area, and then Xavier Robinson punches it in. Oklahoma goes up 17-3. On the next drive, again, Alabama's moving the ball. They picked up 2 first downs on their next drive. They were flirting with Oklahoma territory. They'd gotten the ball to the Oklahoma or to the Alabama 45-yard line, just outside of Oklahoma territory. 2nd and 11. And Kip Lewis. Kip 6, another one, his 2nd interception for a touchdown on the season. I saw so many of y'all in the comment section talking about how Kip Lewis owns the state of Alabama. Well, Brent Venables owns the state of Alabama. And now Oklahoma's up 24-3. And listen, there's a ton of ball game left. I know I'm probably not the only one that sat there like, there's still a lot of clock left. There's still a lot of clock left. Can they do this? Because that's just in the third quarter. There's still 10 minutes plus left in the third quarter. And the Oklahoma Sooners defense did it. They held on. After that, they forced Alabama to punt, turnover on downs, and interception to close the game. Just an incredible performance. Just an incredible performance by the defense. Cannot say enough about what this defense did. To go in the second half thinking, okay, Kalen DeBoer, this really, really good offensive coach, is going to come out in the second half with some big time adjustments to try and figure out a way to create some scoring and create some offense against Alabama or against Oklahoma. Here are the drives for Alabama in the second half. Interception return for a touchdown, punt, turnover on downs, interception. What more can you say? What more can you say about what Oklahoma was able to do? I know you as fans are proud of this team, but it's fun. It's just fun to be a part of this. And I know there's going to be a lot of SEC fans that come into this, be like, oh, you're celebrating moving to 6-5. Yeah, I'm going to celebrate moving to 6-5. It's been a crappy year for Oklahoma. It's just, it is what it is. So we're going to celebrate the little things. I'm not typically a rush the field person, but hey, listen, on a night like tonight, when all the vibes are legit on senior night, rush the field. Enjoy it. I hope you got an opportunity to get on the field if you were a part of the fan base and you were in the crowd this year. Dude, an incredible experience probably. And again, you knocked off a top 10 Alabama team, knocked them out of playoff contention. Get out of here. Bama, you're done. Ole Miss, you're done. Get out of here. And you're going bowling. You're keeping that streak that dates back to 1999 intact, and you're bowling. So again, I want to go through some of the comments over here because I think there's going to be some really fun ones. I'll try to, I know that there's a lot here. Dominic says here, first complimentary game of the season. Yeah, the offense played a game to help the defense. The offense only had one turnover. Again, it was in Alabama territory. Offense played a game to help the defense. Modern day caveman says our defense was able to get into the backfield, and that's what we needed all season. 100%. They were creating pressure up the middle, off the edge. They were getting penetration in the run game and just absolutely dominating. John Lopez, this first time we saw complimentary football on both sides of the ball. Yeah, 100%. Will Lehman, he says, Eli made a freshman on freshman statement against Williams that reminded me of Richard Sherman. That is some high praise for young Eli Bowen, man. But he did. I mean, Ryan Williams, he got loose for a couple gains. Let's also shout out to that catch in the end zone that would have been a touchdown and honestly should have been a touchdown that the refs threw a flag on. Ryan Williams had 2 catches for 37 yards in the game. Eli Bowen statement game. Sheldon says the Sooners deserve that win, or the seniors deserve that win. Christopher Satterfield, this was for our seniors. Dude, Danny Stutzman, Ethan Downs, Woody Washington, Dejon Terry, Billy Bowman, Caden Woolard. Yeah, man, really happy that they got to get off the field with a win on Owen Field and get to go to a bowl game if they so choose, and had big moments in the game. Woody Washington coming up with the interception that sealed the game. Dude, how great for Woody. How great for Woody Washington. Oh my gosh, just absolutely incredible. Sorry, I'm just looking for a few more comments here. Let's get down to some of the newer ones. An unreal night for SEC football. Yeah, the SEC was nuts today. Just absolutely nuts. College football in general is nuts, but the SEC just went bonkers. Forgot the script, apparently. Zach Fulton says, letting Casey take the last snap was cool. Yeah. Shout out to Casey Thompson, man. I don't know what the expectations were coming. I don't know what he was hoping to do this year, but he's been nothing but the consummate teammate and professional for this program. And the Sooners calling that final timeout, letting him get out on the field to take that final snap, it had to be a dream come true for him. He talked about how important it was to be able to go and play at Oklahoma, the place that his father played, and the fact that he didn't really get any playing time amid all of the quarterback turmoil that Oklahoma had been through this year, but getting to take that final snap at home against Alabama in a big win. Just, dude, that's cool. That's a cool moment, man. Football is built for these cool moments. Yeah, Auburn just beat Texas A&M, which I find it really funny that the final game that could have been a quality opponent for the Texas Longhorns, as everybody questions their schedule and the strength of schedule, that Texas A&M is no longer going to be viewed as a quality opponent for Texas. So listen, it's been crap for Oklahoma, but we can take some joy in things not necessarily panning out for Texas. Although, hey, they're winning, so I can't gloat too much, but I just think it's kind of funny. Ryan says Dejon Terry was huge in this game. R. Mason Thomas made himself known throughout the game, dude. Man, I'm so happy for those two guys. Dejon Terry came last year, and we saw how much of an impact he made on this team when Oklahoma got that goal line stand against Texas in the Red River Showdown, right? A lot of that, I mean, there's other guys making plays, but so much of that is because you can't run up the middle because Oklahoma is really stout in the middle. And he kind of set the tone for Oklahoma's transformation at defensive tackle that led to Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson, David Stone coming to Oklahoma this past offseason and helping to continue to transform Oklahoma's defensive interior. And you saw it tonight. Alabama wasn't able to do a whole lot. They got a few runs here and there, but it wasn't consistent. And when you needed pressure up the middle, you got it, because this defensive tackle group is really, really good. Grayson Halton continues to show out. R. Mason Thomas, man, I've been predicting the R. Mason Thomas breakout for 2 years. And this year, finally healthy, he was able to do that. What a game, man. What a game for R. Mason Thomas. The guy just continues to show that he's an elite pass rusher. And when you look at the totality of his game, you see a complete player, because he plays the run well. He defends the edge well. He sets it well. He maintains quarterback contain, not letting Jalen Milroe escape out wide. And just, he plays a complete game. That's a dude that I think has the ability to go be a top 100 pick in the NFL draft if he went this year. But if he comes back for another year, he might be able to push himself into a first round draft pick because he's so good off the edge. He's got insane traits with his quickness and his athleticism. If he can continue to refine it one more year at the collegiate level, I mean, the dude has a chance to go down as one of Oklahoma's best pass rushers of the last 25 years. And that's including a guy like Nick Bonita, who's tied for second in the NFL in sacks right now. Just a great performance by him. The defense outscored Alabama 7-3. It did. It absolutely did. Again, an incredible defensive effort that was, again, resilient. It was a huge bounce back. How disappointed were we when they let Missouri drive 75 yards in 57 seconds 2 weeks ago? I'm sure they were just as disappointed as well that they let that one get away. But what a bounce back. I mean, they played incredibly tough all game long, dictated the tempo, dictated the pace, dictated with their physicality. And they won the game. Obviously, Oklahoma's offense scored some points, but only needed a couple drives, but they got the short field that led to Robinson's second touchdown, and then got the pick six that took a 10-3 game at halftime, and within the first 5 minutes of the second half turned it into a 24-3 game. Just like we've seen happen against Oklahoma on multiple occasions this year. Oklahoma finally did that to somebody else. Remember the South Carolina game? The first 5 minutes of that game, Oklahoma gifted them 21 points. And that was pretty much the ball game. Against Ole Miss, we had a little span where we gave the ball back. Against Texas, we had a short span in the second quarter, I want to say, close to the end of the first half, where in like a 5-minute span, it went from like a 7-3 game to a 17-3 game. And you're like, what just happened? And I know Alabama fans were thinking the same thing when they watched that 10-3 game go to 24-3 in an instant. Just great. Johnny Welch, welcome to Locked On Sooners. He says, OUD wasn't on the field all game. The O played good with what they had. Boomer Sooner. Boomer Sooner. Yeah, the defense was not forced to play a lot. Obviously, they were on the field a bunch, making plays like crazy, but they got off the field when they had opportunities to do so on third down. The offense controlled the clock and didn't put them right back on the field. This was a game that you look at and you're like, this is what it looks like. When you have a defense as good as Oklahoma's defense, this is what the offense should look like. Especially when you don't have maybe the passing offense that you want to have just yet. So yeah, just again, fantastic. Yeah, Alan Daniel says, not celebrating 6-5, we're celebrating beating what we're told is the cream of the crop in football for the last 15 years. Who's been the dominant program in college football for the most part? It's Alabama, right? Great point, Alan. Alabama football, that is the pinnacle. That's what everybody's chasing, right? Alabama and Georgia. Well, you just beat Alabama. You beat them. You didn't just beat Alabama. You dominated Alabama. Absolutely dominated Alabama. And so, yeah, we're going to celebrate that. 100%. Ryan says, think of the recruits at that game in that atmosphere. Think of the recruits at that game in that atmosphere. Yeah, I'm sure they had a blast. You could tell by what we're seeing on the broadcast, what I'm seeing on social media, the fans are having a blast. The environment was lit. It was fantastic. Great job, Sooner Nation. Again, Chris Satterfield says, I want us to compete next year and really show who we are with all our players. Man, you're going to be getting so many guys back from injury next year. And that's going to make a huge, huge difference. Nobody wants to hear excuses about injuries. You got to be able to overcome stuff. But with what Oklahoma's been dealing with this year, it's unreasonable what Oklahoma's been dealing with this year. Unreasonable. Um, Tyler says Eli should be a freshman All-American. I don't see why not. He's been one of the best cornerbacks in the country, not just as a freshman, but you're going to be hard pressed to find another freshman cornerback playing as well as Eli Bowen. And he had a statement game today against Alabama in prime time on national television on ABC with Kirk Herbstreit in studio broadcasting the game. You know, Eli Bowen is going to become more of a household name as he continues to play more and more. Spencer Rattler, I'm guessing this is a fake name, says we are the only team in the SEC that owns Bama. Chris concurs. We own Bama. Yeah, 100%. Let's see. Christopher says Fasusi went to the wrong game. Listen, I'm not going to, dog a guy if he makes that decision. Hopefully he's going to get to experience what a Norman, Oklahoma football game looks like many, many times over down the road. So yeah, go fine. If you want to experience an Austin home game, you're going to get to see a lot of Oklahoma home games in the future. I'm still feeling pretty good about that. JT says they controlled the line of scrimmage all game and protected the ball. This is the recipe they need to move on. Yeah, this is, I think, what Brent Venables is aiming for is an offense that is able to control the line of scrimmage. Obviously, they did so on the defensive side of the ball as well, but an offense that can control the line of scrimmage, an offense that can control the clock, that can run the clock. I mean, again, I go back to that final drive of the game. There's 6:47 left on the clock. And the Oklahoma Sooners said, you're done. Jalen, you can just stay over there on the sideline. We got this. And they ran out the clock from 6:47 on, converted a 4th and 2 to keep the ball. And that was ball game. I was hoping they could do something like that, but after the way kind of the third quarter went, where they weren't super efficient, they weren't really moving the ball, the fact that they were able to do that, now maybe Alabama just wasn't up to it at that point after that final turnover. But yeah, protected the football, controlled the line of scrimmage. A great recipe for success when you are a defensive football team. And is Oklahoma a defensive football team? Are we seeing it? I think Oklahoma might be a defensive football team. What else? Will says BV is going to build a national title team. Listen, this is it's not outside the realm of possibility. I don't see why not. Gotta have guys healthy, as Chris is saying over in the chat. Where was it? I saw somebody mention that this was Oklahoma's best win of the Venables era, including Texas. And I have to agree. Given all of the adversity that Oklahoma's been through this year, given all of the injuries, given the offensive coordinator change, given the quarterback changes that they've endured, all of it, this is arguably the most dramatic season I've seen out of Oklahoma. And to be able to overcome all of that and get to this moment, to this point, and play the way that they played tonight, you got to tip your cap to them. You got to take your hats off to them, and you got to believe that this is going to be something that helps propel Oklahoma, hopefully against LSU next week. Hopefully they can ride that same wave and they can ride that same game plan, and they can use that to go into Baton Rouge, into Tiger Stadium, into Death Valley, and beat LSU and finish the season on a high note. And then go into the next offseason with a whole lot more momentum and a whole lot more clarity about what you're looking like as a football team. Jordan Creighton says, I still think at this moment we still need a new OC. What are your thoughts? If we do what we did tonight to LSU, I might say keep him. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think they're still pretty set on looking outside the building for an offensive coordinator. And I think that's probably the right play. Listen, Joe John Finley, he's created some really good tape for himself now after beating Bama as an offensive play caller. And maybe, and shoot, I don't know. maybe it makes Brent Venables rethink some things. Maybe it gives Joe John Finley a little bit more cachet to say, hey, look at what I've done. Maybe. I'm not going to sit here and say it won't. I got to think that they will consider things, but they've been on a pretty extensive search outside the building to try to find their next offensive coordinator. Can they come up with it? We'll see. I think it's an interesting question that we'll have to discuss. I'll have to get Jay's thoughts on it moving forward. Let's see what else. Sorry, I'm just trying to scroll real quick and find who should be our quarterback next year. Man, I don't know. I don't know at this point. I'm still just kind of in the game. We'll have to talk about that one this coming up week here on Locked On Sooners. Someone's asking about Jackson Arnold transferring. Dude, I have no idea. There's a lot. There's going to be a lot of questions. I don't think they've made any kind of offensive coordinator decision yet, despite the reports that are out there. I don't think that that's something that they've done. Kind of based on some of the things that I'm, hearing, it's still a work in progress. I'm not going to say who is the favorite. I'm not going to say who's the leader, who they've talked to. I just know that it's a work in progress based on what I've gathered. Oh man, this has just been such a great night. It's been a great night. I hope you've had a lot of fun with it. I know in a year in which everything has gone wrong for Oklahoma, finally something went right. I mean, the Auburn win, how long ago was that? That was forever ago. Yes, we got the main win. Listen, I don't really even consider that. It was fun. It was great to have a fun day and fun recording and watch some young guys get some opportunities. But that Auburn game was forever ago. It was almost 2 months ago that Auburn game was. So it's been that long since we've been able to feel this good about this team and the direction of the team. But I think you can feel good about the direction that you have with your head coach. Anybody still questioning that? I don't think so. And despite what people want to say about our show on Facebook, we're not questioning that either. We've always felt good about Brent Venables. Frankie says we held a high-scoring team to 3 points, 234 yards of total offense with 9 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, 3 sacks, a defensive performance. Just wow. Yeah. I think we're all in awe of it, right? I expected the Oklahoma Sooners defense to play well, but I still had Alabama scoring 27 points somehow, some way. Even the most optimistic of us out there probably did not expect the defense to hold Alabama under 20. And they held them under 3. I mean, I was seeing not under 3. They held them 2-3. I was seeing some wild predictions out there, like Alabama was going to score 45 or 50 points. I'm like, have y'all not watched this defense play? This defense has been playing good ball all year. It's just they got put in some crap situations at times. And tonight, they didn't get put in any crap situations because the offense took care of the ball for the most part, except for Taylor Tatum's fumble. And they did what they needed to do. Daniel says storming the field was shameful. This is Oklahoma we're talking about, not Oklahoma State. I don't care. Storm the field. Who cares? It's fine. It's fun. You've had a crap year. You take the good in the bad. You just enjoy what you can enjoy. So yeah, man, there's going to be some questions that they still need to answer. There's going to be some decisions that have to be made. But I just want to close with a few more things before we get out of here. Shout out to Jackson Arnold for the toughness that he put on display tonight against a tough Alabama defense. Again, ran 25 times for 138 yards, 131 yards. He averaged 5.2 yards per carry. He ran tough. He took so many hits tonight against this Alabama defense and just kept on battling. He battled. There might be things that he needs to continue to work on and continue to develop, but the dude showed incredible toughness, and the dude just continued to battle. He took care of the ball. He was smart with the football, and he let his defense do their work. He let special teams do their work. Xavier Robinson, another huge day for him. The guy has basically, I think, earned the trust of the coaching staff that they know that they can ride him. He had the 18 carries, but he also had 4 receptions for 20 yards. He had 127 total yards and 2 touchdowns on 22 touches today. Xavier Robinson can be your bell cow, is what you found out this season. No matter what else happens at the running back position moving forward, whether Javonte Barnes, I assume Javonte Barnes will be back. I assume Taylor Tatum will be back. He'll play baseball in the spring. But whatever else happens at running back, I mean, you're going to get some guys in the 2025 recruiting class that are going to help you too. But you know that you can give Xavier Robinson the football a lot. You can give him a heavy workload, and he's going to continue to produce and perform. He's going to fall forward. He's going to churn out the dirty yards. I know everybody's going to ask, why didn't he play earlier this season? I don't know. What I do know is now we got a player. We got a ball player in Xavier Robinson. Offensive line came up big, again, against a really good Alabama defensive line. Huge game, huge performance. I can't wait to see the snap counts to see exactly who played and how much they played. But I know that Logan Howland and Heath Ozida, 2 young guys that, especially Logan Howland, remember at the end of Ole Miss, at the end of that Ole Miss game, he did not have a great performance. But he's battled and he's continued to develop. And he's gotten better. And he's a guy that you can continue to work with and continue to develop. And you can have him in a competition for left tackle's snaps next offseason or this coming offseason and see, can he take his development to another level and improve and be your starter at left tackle next year? Remember, he's really young in the position, much like Tyler Guyton was. Heath Ozida, I'm very comfortable with Heath Ozida being my left guard next year. He's continued to get better. Troy Everett will be back at center, continues to play good ball. Right guard, Eddie Pierre-Louis got in a bunch. On that last drive before halftime, Eddie Pierre-Louis was in the game. He was your right guard. And they were making things happen. Spencer Brown, we've had a lot of talk about Spencer Brown this year and how it just was not going right for him and how that was maybe a bust. Well, it's come together for Oklahoma down the stretch, and he's played big time ball for the Sooners over the last few weeks. And listen, you don't give up the last, touchdown drive against Missouri. Jackson Arnold doesn't fumble it away. Maybe you have a chance to even win the game after it's tied. But the offensive line has done really good work over the last few weeks. The main game, the Missouri game, this game. And I definitely feel better than I have all year long going into the LSU game with the offensive line the way it's at. Defensively, R. Mason Thomas, Ethan Downs, Jaden Jackson, Dominic Williams, Dejon Terry, all those dudes up front played an incredible game. Your linebacker core, I think the best way I can describe the linebacker core, listen, they did not have big numbers, but they played a disciplined football game. Disciplined game. They maintained their leverages, they maintained their responsibilities, and did not allow Jalen Milroe to break contain. The secondary, and then obviously at linebacker, Kip Lewis coming up with a huge pick 6 to take the lead from 17-3 to 24-3. Incredible moment in the game. Kip Lewis is just one of those dudes who just makes plays. He's just a playmaker. The best way to describe him. And then Eli Bowen in the secondary continues to show that he is a starter moving forward. I mean, you don't have any questions about who's going to start for you at one of your cornerback spots next year. He'll be starting for you. Michael Hammond's mentioning Robert Spears-Jennings played big. He did. He and the safety group, everybody on the back end played a really good game. Des Malone, I thought, played a really good game too. He had 5 solo tackles. I thought he did a really good job in coverage when he was matched up with Ryan Williams as well. There were a number of times where those guys were right on their hips and it led to drops or it led to contested catches that they weren't able to come up with. And then, kind of final shout out here to Brent Venables. Brent Venables has been building a culture. He's been working to establish a mindset at Oklahoma. And this year has been marked by a ton of adversity in his personal life with his wife, on the football field, having to fire a guy like Seth Luttrell, who is an Oklahoma alum and somebody I think he was excited to hand the reins of the offense to, but it didn't work out. And I can't imagine that was an easy decision for Brent Venables or an easy conversation for him at all. But he pulled the trigger, made the tough call, and has had to make several tough calls. The quarterback, turnover with Jackson Arnold, with Michael Hawkins, having to go back and forth and make those decisions. He's handled it and he's managed it all well. Have there been a couple hiccups here and there? Absolutely. This season has not been good. Obviously, you're now 6-5. But he's kept this team together. He's kept them fighting, kept them focused. And that only happens when you keep your culture intact. And that only happens when you keep your locker room intact. And so Brent Venables deserves all kinds of flowers for this. For everybody that was ready to run him out the door, ready to pay that $45 million buyout. This is what you're going to get with the Brent Venables team. This is more of what we should expect from Brent Venables and his football team moving forward. And they've, again, got big questions to answer this offseason. At quarterback, at offensive coordinator, they're going to have some big-time transfer portal decisions. Brent's already, I think he's already struggling with the guys that are going to have to be quote-unquote processed out. A lot of big decisions to come. But who would you rather have at the helm of your football program right now than Brent Venables? Dealing with all the adversity that he's dealt with. I wouldn't. And that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Sooners Live. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of the show and enjoying this incredible win with me. It's obviously much more fun to talk about football when they win, but a game like this with you all here that tune into Locked On Sooners every single day, that are with us and watching our show or downloading our podcast, interacting with us on social media. I know that Jay is so appreciative of you. I'm appreciative of you as well for being here, even when things haven't been going fun and they haven't been good. You continue to tune in and give us a space to talk about Oklahoma football and more on this show. And we are thankful for you. It's Thanksgiving coming up. And so I just want to say, I've been doing this show for 4 years plus now, since 2020, the COVID season. And because of you, it's grown a ton, and I am thankful for you. And I know I can echo what Jay's sentiments, that he is thankful for you all as well. I know that, my wife and my family, we are thankful for Sooner Nation and the support that they show this show. And so thank you so much. I hope you all enjoy your Sunday and get to revel in it. Text all your Sooner hater fan friends and let them know that OU football ain't going nowhere. We ain't done yet. Just getting started. But again, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners Live. Again, thanks for tuning in with us here on the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that notification bell and that subscribe button to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel. I know he'll have a great reaction breakdown on his channel as well. And we'll be back for our show on Monday morning as well, here on YouTube and available wherever you get your podcasts, to continue to talk about this game and talk about the performances of this game and from this game and what stood out, especially as we get a chance to kind of take it all in. But again, thank you for being here, being a part of the show. And until next time, I'm John Williams for Jay Smith. We'll talk to you next. Boomer Sooner.